Claire had always loved the sound of rain. It was her escape from the noise of the world, the only thing that could drown out the endless hum of expectations, deadlines, and the quiet ache of loneliness. That evening, as the storm whispered against her window, she sat at her piano, letting her fingers move without thought. Every note was heavy with something she couldn't quite name, longing, maybe, or the ghost of something yet to come. She didn't hear the door open until a soft voice said, "You play like the rain itself." Claire turned, her heart skipping a beat. Belle stood there, dripping wet from the storm, her black hair clinging to her cheeks. Her dark eyes glowed with the kind of warmth that could melt through winter. Those black eyes were the first thing Claire noticed, and the last thing she would ever forget. They were a universe she had once been too afraid to explore. "Belle," Claire's voice was barely a whisper, filled with disbelief. They hadn't seen each other since college, 5 long years of silence, broken only by the occasional fleeting thought that maybe somewhere, Belle was thinking of her too. Belle offered a small, nervous smile. "I heard you were performing nearby. I couldn't let you disappear again. I didn't want to miss you." The room fell silent except for the rain, and the quiet hum of the piano, still vibrating in the air like an unanswered question. Belle walked closer, her boots leaving small, glistening puddles on the polished floor. She looked older, stronger, more sure of herself, but her eyes were still the same. Deep, honest. A mirror reflecting a truth Claire had spent years avoiding. "Can I stay a while?" Belle asked softly, her gaze holding Claire's. There was a world of meaning in that simple question. It wasn't just about escaping the storm outside, but about finding shelter from the storms within. Claire could only nod, her throat tight with emotion. Always. They talked for hours, the years between them melting away with each shared memory and quiet confession. They spoke of music, of work, of the paths they'd taken. The world outside blurred into silver lines of rain, a backdrop to their reunion. Claire found herself opening up in a way she hadn't with anyone else, speaking of the crushing loneliness that came with fame. Her voice, once her greatest joy, now felt like a gilded cage. "Everyone hears me," Claire said, her own voice laced with a bittersweet irony, "but it feels like no one ever truly listens." Belle's expression softened with understanding. She reached across the small table, her hand gently brushing against Claire's. The simple touch sent a jolt of electricity through Claire, a spark of something familiar and deeply missed. "I always listened," Belle whispered, her voice a balm to Claire's weary soul, "even when you didn't speak a word." It was then that Claire felt it again, that powerful, undeniable connection that had once frightened her so much. In college, they had been inseparable, their friendship a bond so deep, so intense, it blurred all the lines. When Belle had confessed she loved her, Claire had panicked. She ran not because she didn't feel the same, but because she was terrified of the truth her heart already knew. The intensity of it all was too much for her younger self to handle. Now, sitting in the golden, dim light of her studio, surrounded by the comforting scent of rain and old books, she realized the truth she had run from had never actually left her. She had never stopped loving Belle. Belle stood and walked over to the grand piano, its polished surface reflecting the soft light. She ran a hand over the keys, a silent invitation. "Play something," she said, her voice gentle but firm. "Play something that sounds like us." Claire hesitated for only a moment. Then, taking a deep breath, her fingers found the keys. She began to play. The melody that emerged was slow, tender, and achingly beautiful. Each note was a confession, a wordless apology, a declaration of all the things she'd been too afraid to say. Belle closed her eyes, letting the music wash over her. And then, she began to hum, soft at first, then growing stronger, her voice weaving through Claire's melody. Their voices blended, not in words, but in pure, unadulterated emotion, until the very air in the room felt alive with everything they'd left unsaid for 5 long years. When the final note faded into the rain-soaked silence, neither of them spoke. The air was trembling, thick with anticipation. Belle's hand rested on the piano, mere inches from Claire's. The space between them was a powerful, magnetic field. "Belle," Claire whispered, her voice trembling slightly. "Back then, I was so scared." "I know," Belle said, her voice just as quiet. "So was I." A newfound courage bloomed in Claire's chest. "I'm not anymore." Belle's lips parted slightly, a silent question in her eyes. "Then don't be." And in that moment, the world fell away. Claire leaned forward, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. The rain, the piano, The years of regret, it all vanished. There was only Belle. The warmth of her breath against Claire's skin, the softness of her lips, and the quiet, breathtaking promise of something real and true. Their kiss was slow, fragile, yet utterly certain, like finding your way home after being lost in the wilderness for a lifetime. It was a discovery and a homecoming all at once. When they finally, reluctantly, pulled away, Belle smiled through happy tears, her dark eyes shining. "You hear it now, don't you?" she asked softly. Claire, dazed and overwhelmed with joy, looked at her, confused. "Hear what?" The voice within, Belle said, her hand coming up to gently cup Claire's cheek. "The one that was always trying to tell you what love sounds like." Claire laughed, a sound of pure, unburdened relief, resting her forehead against Belle's. "It sounds like you." Outside, the storm had passed. The first rays of morning light crept through the window, turning everything in the room to gold. Claire reached for Belle's hand again, not with hesitation this time, but with a deep, settled peace. "Stay," she said. It wasn't a question. It was a plea, a promise, a beginning. Belle's answer was another kiss, quiet, confident, and full of the future. And when Claire played again, the music that flowed from her fingers was no longer about loneliness or loss. It was a symphony of love, real, wild, and fearless. The black eyes that had once haunted her dreams were now her muse, her melody, her undeniable truth. And for the first time in a very long time, Claire didn't just play for the world, she played for them. Thank you so much for joining me for this story today. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel for more content like this. It truly means the world. Take care, and see you next time.